When Mike Enslin lost his daughter, the afterlife became his obsession.
You probably want to hear all about our haunted history.
But after years of searching, he no longer believes.
So you're saying there's no such thing as ghosts?
I'm saying I've never seen one. Nothing would make me happier than to experience a paranormal event.
Gerald Olin, manager of the Dolphin.
If I can just get the key to 1408.
In the 95 years of the hotel's existence, there have been 56 deaths in 1408. The first victims to Kevin O'Malley.
Cut his own throat.
Do not stay in that room.
Based on a story by Stephen King.
Did you call the cops?
They're in 1408. The room's empty.
I'm gonna die.
I warned you about 1408.
Daddy? Don't you love me anymore?
And welcome back yet again, another week to the Film Reel Cast, the podcast that everyone is talking about in our house. So,
sorry, I tried to stay quiet because you're doing an intro, and that blew me away. Fucking hell.
you've got to pick it up somewhere. Jesus Christ.
Well, at least they're talking about in your house, because they certainly don't in mine.
And that, if you haven't guessed, every week is the lovely tones of Neil. How are you, my good friend?
I'm good. Sorry, I already dropped some sort of swear word. I do apologise, everyone.
Don't worry.
Never
Regular
PG.
listeners will know that this will contain spoilers, foul language, and lots of errors and factually incorrect information.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I can't believe my faux pas last week. I fucking started talking about MCU and I dropped in fucking Superman. So what the fuck am I talking about? I literally slapped myself afterwards. It's like, fucking hell.
Oh, we do it, mate. Honestly, the joy of getting old, you know, it really is.
I was sitting there thinking, how have I made that mistake? And I was like, I've obviously got Dark Side confused with whatever we were talking about. But afterwards, I felt I was so embarrassed with myself. But there you
It could
go.
have been Darth Vader. Oh, it's Darth Vader, isn't it? Fuck me, it's even worse. Jesus Christ.
Who knows?
Do you know what? When we were, as I say, like, we do get unbelievably in excess of excess of 40,000 listeners every month. So thank you to everyone.
Sir.
And the trailer reviews we've been doing, reaction reviews, have gone down really well, which is great because it's something that we actually really enjoy doing, and it's really simple to do. And it's something that, I mean, you mentioned it before about doing it, and it's just a really good idea. And we just chat shit and tangent, and it's just great. But I saw after we did the She-Hulk one, that there's so many. I wasn't aware because I naturally go into YouTube, type in trailer, and you'll have official trailer number 1 for She-Hulk. Look at that one. And then there's loads of other trailers that I didn't realise that I reckon could have changed a lot of opinion.
Really?
I mean, I didn't realise. I saw a court scene with Matt Murdock in it.
What?
Yeah. And it's like, whoa, what's all this? Because like, Daredevil, absolutely amazing on Netflix. Daredevil's appearance in Spider-Man was like, fuck me, jaw-dropping. Did not expect him to be in it. Brilliant cameo. And now he's in this.
They're obviously, but haven't they announced that they're doing a new Daredevil series on Disney Plus, I believe.
Yes,
So
that's right.
Probably why they've shoehorned him into these other films.
But that's a fucking game changer. For me, that is. I mean, I was quite positive anyway. I was trying to sell it and I was being shot down.
Rightly so.
But I'm still really hopeful, and even more hopeful now that Matt Murdock, are we going to get Foggy back in it? It's just the possibilities are endless, and everything means something. It's always linked in Marvel, as we always say. But I kind of thought, shit, I wish I'd have seen that trailer because that was good. That was really good.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can't deny that, can you? To be fair, if he's in it, but there again, you know, we loved the darker series, didn't we?
Yes.
In relation to him, but are Disney gonna Disney it?
That is a good point.
Pink and fluffy, and that's my concern. I mean, this The main issue I had with the She-Hulk trailer is the fact they seem to try and make it like a comedy rather than something serious, and doesn't bode well.
And that is really true, and that is really worrying. And it will go to show, or a bit of a test to the balls that Disney have got, because you've got the Punisher, really dark, brilliant, really enjoyed that. It went off the rails a little bit, it lost track, but very, very, very good. Would Disney have the bollocks to do something so dark and violent like Daredevil and Punisher? Because they were really good, but is there enough story there, and would they get the same person back to reprise the role? Which I think you'd have to if you were doing it, because he was such a good Punisher. But
yeah, he was a fantastic Punisher, but they dropped it on Netflix, didn't they? Because
they did.
It sort of, like you say, the second season just went off the rails. And it was a shame, because the first series was just so good. It was brilliant. But honestly, in my personal opinion, I don't think Disney have got the balls, because they're too pink and fluffy, and I don't hold out a lot of hope. The more stuff that's coming out, unfortunately.
No, it'd be really, really interesting to see. And and another trailer we did, Top Gun 2 Maverick, another very controversial fucking podcast that we did. Jesus Christ, you could get two further opposite ends of the spectrum. I've now booked up BFI IMAX at Waterloo, the biggest screen in Europe, one of the best sound systems. And I didn't know before the screen was like fucking 6 double-decker buses. It's the biggest one in Europe. And I didn't know, and I booked 3 rows from the front.
Wow. Your eyes are gonna hurt after that. My God.
Quality. Wow. I cannot wait. I'm fucking there. I've sold my soul. I am so excited. I've been watching interviews with Tom Cruise. There was an amazing one on Sky Max, an interview with Tom Cruise. So good. And I just can't hold this excitement, seriously. And the reviews Top Gun 2 is getting are fucking brilliant as well.
No one's seen it. How can they know how good it is? It's all on nostalgia and what they hope it to be. I'm sorry, mate. We've seen it a million times. This film's going to be epic. You come out of the cinema going, oh, well, that's nothing like I thought it was going to be.
I won't. I'm going to have semen dripping from my trousers, and
what you
people
do
will be going, why have you taken so many Viagra? I haven't. I've just seen Top Gun 2. Yeah. That's it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Because I went to, obviously, I went and saw the new Doctor Strange movie the other night. And
oh yeah, what'd you think of it?
Very good. It was weird, but it was very good. I did enjoy it. But just going on to the trailer, obviously the Top Gun trailer was on again, and I still had the same opinion. I thought the special effects and what they did with the planes all looked really cool, but my opinion's still the same. It's just I'm fed up with the movie industry just making sequels a billion years after the original just to get some more money out of it, and it doesn't excite me at all. I will be spending the least amount of money possible, and I will watch it on a fucking iPod Nano rather than pay all that money you have just to see it.
Seriously,
so I can review it. But I can't get excited about it. I can't. But but yeah, like Doctor Strange, no, very good actually, very good, because I watched the new Spider-Man, and that was again really odd, and you sort of looked at it, felt a bit pointless, but it was still really good. But Doctor Strange, I thought that was fantastic, really well done.
Yeah, I thought it was very good, really good. He plays it so well, and I thought Wanda was very good, and special effects. It was proper Sam Raimi, wasn't it? Very, very dark.
It was, and it was good, and it like you said before, it sort of pieced all the bits on Netflix and bloody Disney mixed up on Disney Plus together.
Yes,
with the alternate sort of that mini series of cartoons. And stuff.
The what ifs. Yeah,
the what ifs, which I thought was really good.
Yeah, really definitely. Good. Everything means something, doesn't it? And I went to see it. I took my mum. Of all people, I said to her the other day, I said, why don't we go out to the cinema and see a film? and I took her to go and see Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is just a random film. I saw the trailer. My first reaction to the trailer was, "Whoa, fucking stay away from that." Even though I've got a Limitless card, I thought I am going to stay away from that. But I thought, let's go and see it. And it's a really weird film. Even my mum, when the film finished, said that was one of the weirdest films I've ever seen in my life.
I've
And I
never
said,
heard
yeah,
of it.
it's you have to watch a trailer for it. It's got Jamie Lee
Yeah.
Curtis in it, and it's even got the Chinese kid or the Japanese kid from Goonies. Is it Data?
No.
Yeah, he plays the husband in it.
I'm
And
watching it now. Oh yeah.
yeah,
So it is.
and it's about a woman whose life is very monotonous. She's trapped in her own world of running a laundrette, poor relationship with her daughter, doing the taxes, and that through a parallel universe, she realizes that things need to change and she can escape that life and improve it. And it's done through kind of multiverses of herself in different forms with different abilities. And it's really strange. And it's one of those films that's like one of those pills that dissolve. The longer you leave it to dissolve, the more you enjoy it. And I came out and I just thought, I kind of like that film a hell of a lot. And the more I think about it, the more I've enjoyed it. And I'd go and see it again, but it's the weirdest film. It's a crazy film. But yeah, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'd recommend it. It's the strangest film you'd ever see, but yeah.
It does look weird, but no, it does look good. I'll have to go and see that. I think.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. You've just got to stick with it. That's all I can say. But I loved it. I thought it's such a clever film and really well acted.
Yeah,
But
no,
I've been very busy. But this week, unbelievable, we got a film that Paul chose that Paul wanted to do, but Paul actually isn't on the podcast. So he's been arrested, drunk driving yet again.
He just can't stop, can he? He just cannot stop.
Despite telling him numerous times, no, that's not true. That's not true.
No, it's something far worse. But
yeah, for legal reasons, we can't say why he's no longer on the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to do 2007's spooky supernatural film 1408 or 1408. It adds up to 13. That is the most important thing, which is currently showing on Netflix in the UK, starring John Cusack, Samuel motherfucking L. Jackson, and Jasmine Anthony and Mary McCormack. That's pretty much it through the whole film, to be honest, isn't it?
No one else really is of note, really.
No, exactly. We'll be doing spoilers throughout this, as per usual. And if you haven't heard of this film, I had seen this film previously, but I hadn't seen it for a long while. So it was quite interesting to revisit it once. A few times would have been a bit painful. But for those who are not in the know, a cynical and skeptical writer, Mike Enslin, played by John Cusack, writes books evaluating supernatural phenomena in hotels, graveyards, and other haunted places, usually debunking the mystery. Whilst writing his latest book, he travels to Los Angeles, or from Los Angeles to New York, I beg your pardon, to spend the night in the Dolphin Hotel, possessed room 1408, which is permanently unavailable to guests, regardless of how many requests they make. The reluctant manager, Gerald Olin, who's played by Samuel L. motherfucking Jackson, objects to his request and offers an upgrade, tickets to the Knicks and booze, but he finally gives in and gives him the room. However, Mike threatens Mr. Olin and promises to sue the hotel. And once he's in the room, he finds it is haunted and he has the night of hell, as you would if you're in such places as the Holiday Inn or Premier Inn or the Travel Lodge.
Any of the above, yeah.
Exactly. Other hotels are available. And the night goes on. But we have to remember a major part of this is that John Cusack is a fucking irritating character throughout this film. I should have mentioned that in the synopsis.
He's arrogant, isn't he? He's an arrogant tit. He really is.
It's hard to like the man in this, honestly. It really is. I mean, you see him at the start of it where he's at a hotel. He obviously gets kind of people writing to him, and he was a one-time successful author of ghost books. and possibly I don't believe any of that. Where do you stand on ghosts and shit like that?
I've never seen one, but I've had some eerie feelings when I've been in buildings and stuff and what have you. But that's probably just my imagination running wild. But yeah, I'd like to think there's something, that goes bump in the night. But
do you think that
know.
people who believe in ghosts often believe in heaven and hell? Do you think that is kind of related?
Not necessarily, no, because not going into too much, but I don't believe in heaven or hell, but I do believe there's possibly other things that go on that we don't know about. But what's your thoughts on it?
I didn't until I felt a presence. Let's say that and the weird thing, I was at work. I was standing up. Too much detail, probably. Standing up, having a piss.
Right.
And I felt someone push me on the shoulder, and I thought it was one of my colleagues behind me, just having a joke, as we do at work. And
yes.
I turned around because I actually physically moved forwards, and there was no one else in the bathroom.
Wow.
It was quite scary, and thankfully I was going for a piss. Otherwise, I would have probably pissed myself anyway. I would have shit myself. It was really, really creepy.
Yeah.
I actually physically felt it. And our house, believe it or not, is haunted. And that is no word of a lie. No
really?
honest word of a lie. Yeah. We often get fruit fall out of the fruit bowl. We often get the plates, which are the cups on the side will come on the floor and they'll just break. Pictures on the wall when we've come downstairs, they've been on the floor, leaning against the wall. And it's really strange.
Sure, it's not subsidence. The house isn't sinking. So.
If I would have put the pictures on the wall, I would have understood it. That's why I won't put my TV on the wall and I just put it on a stand. Because I've got zero faith that it fucking stay on the wall.
Well, after your kitchen story of you trying to put kitchen together, I don't surprise.
No, I know. I lost my temper and smashed it up.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's really, really strange because I've got a massive Elvis poster, a framed picture. It's a limited edition, and that is huge. And like the can't lift that off the wall. And I came downstairs, and that was just on the floor, and the way it was placed on the floor, it can't have fallen off. And if it would have broken because it's quite a heavy, big picture. It's just very, very strange. So, and sometimes the dogs will be in the kitchen and the hair will go up on their back and they'll run out the kitchen.
Right. I reckon it's Elvis, mate. I think he's coming.
I'd love it to be Elvis. Oh, God, It'd be so good. That looks a good film coming out, Elvis, with Tom Hanks as well.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for that the other day. I've never been a fan, but I think the film will probably be very good.
Yeah.
One of those good life story type of things. Yeah, I'll definitely give that a watch.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. It looks frigging awesome. It's just fucking what a man, what electricity and everything. Just absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I'll be watching that.
Cheeseburger though,
So do I. So do I. God, yeah. Well, that's the only thing we have got in common. I've got fuck all hair and nothing, no rhythm. So
I don't know. I reckon you can burst out a tune now and again.
Well, if I have a curry, I could burst out a few tunes.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
But we tangent. I know, it's weird. But yeah, first of all, we go to this cottage, back onto the snotty John Cusack. And even when he meets the couple, he makes light of them anyway, which kind of, for me, makes him an instantly dislikable character. Because they believe or do they believe that their cottage, is this to get a review? Is this to get popular? Or do you think they actually believe their room is haunted?
Well, that's his opinion, isn't it? He sort of, later on in the film, he sort of intimates it, but he seems to have this opinion that people write to him so he can then write a review so people go there to experience the haunting. But yeah, I don't know. They sort of seem to think they're so happy, aren't they, to have him there? It's almost like I don't think they do.
Letter, you mentioned that the rooms with the most paranormal activity were in the attic. Could I have one of those rooms?
That's right, because the attic is on the 3rd floor, which is the former servants' quarters. People say that all of Sylvia's children died up there. of tuberculosis.
All of them.
Guests have reported strange sounds. At the stroke of midnight, there's been weird noises. Now, our best advice is to lock your door from the inside. Isn't that right, honey?
That's right.
So in a way,
It's
he's
hard.
like a food critic, isn't he? Because you know when they
Yeah.
turn up at a restaurant, everyone kisses their ass, and
Yes.
what they say really matters, and they're so fucking important and self-righteous that you get the impression he's like that. That especially these people are waiting for his stamp of approval, which makes him appear very self-righteous, especially when he's doing that wanky commentary on his tape recorder. That
Yeah.
I don't know, but I mean, credit to him, he does stay up all night, doesn't he? So it's not like he just goes there and lays down and fucking says no bollocks to it. Your room's not possessed.
Yeah, no, he's thorough, isn't he? He's definitely thorough. And at this point, you don't really know much about him, do you? He's just a writer. He's a bit arrogant. But yeah, no, he's good. The fact that, like you say, he does stay up all night to see if anything does happen.
Yeah, and I think you do realise his come down of where he is, of when they go to the equivalent of like Waterstones or that bookstore. They announce him on the tannoy. There's only 4 people there, and none of them really appear to be interested or just doing it too polite to get a book signing. And you'd think he'd put, even those 4 people there, you'd think he'd put Max Murphy in just to be entertaining to some point, but I don't know whether this is intentional, but he just doesn't come across as likable even to that small audience, does he?
No, I think that's the thing. I think he's sort of he's doing it because it's his job, but he's clearly not enjoying it, is he? And like you say, rather than giving them a good experience, even though there's only 4 people there, it's almost like he just can't be bothered. It's like, I'm better than this sort of thing, and I don't know. It must be hard though, isn't it? If you go there and only 4 people turn up to your book signing.
Yeah, it's going to shoot your confidence fucking massively, isn't it?
Oh, massively. And but I suppose again, we still don't know an awful lot about him at this point. He comes across as arrogant, but is there more behind it and stuff like that, which we will go on to later. But yeah,
definitely.
At the moment, he's a prick.
So what do you mean by that?
Sure. Just looking at his
you
face.
Send mixed messages.
No, I'm not very good at mixed messages, mate. I'll sort of say how it is, unfortunately.
And you do get a kind of hint. Well, I don't know. I've worked with you for a number of years, so
yeah,
it
true.
does depend on the situation.
Yeah, no, that's true, actually.
You do get a hint that he has got some kind of past. When you get that girl walk up to him and it's got the book, The Long Road Home, and she starts to she doesn't pry, but there's a story in there between a father and son, and she asks if that's based on him and his dad, and which you later kind of interpret into him and his daughter, or I did anyway, and he instantly dismissed that. But you get that a hint later on in the film, and that'll be a talking point where his dad does appear, but they still don't. They kind of hint at something, but annoyingly, and as stated on many other podcasts, I like to get the answer to something. If they're going to give you some kind of MacGuffin, which most things are, don't let it be that. Give me an answer. Tell me why. If this is mentioned, tell me why it's mentioned. And we don't get that, which fucks me off.
Yeah, it's a little seed, isn't it? It's a little seed, and you hope you might get it at some point in the film, but there's no clear answer. It's very much you have to put the two together and hope it's the right conclusion. Yeah,
which often isn't. And it goes on, which I suppose in a way, I was quite excited when I watched this, and you kind of like to think you know what's going to happen for that excitement. You think, oh, this is going to end up being this, or this is going to end up being that, and you try and predict it. And when he went surfing, and when he looked up and that wave caught him, this was after the book signing, and then he ended up on the beach, I naturally presumed that he died, and everything, or he was in a coma, everything whilst he was either drowning or dead from now on was just in his mind. That's what I naturally thought. that was going to be a twist. Being a Stephen King book, which is
Yes.
that I thought that was going to be the case, but it wasn't, which I felt a bit let down by. You know what I mean?
Yeah, honestly, mate, that didn't even cross my mind, to be honest. That's a very good way of thinking about it. I just thought, this is a really weird scene. It just
Yeah.
I didn't see the point of it, to be honest.
No, I
but
didn't. And that's why I hoped it would be something.
Yeah. I mean, it plays into it later on, doesn't it? Which is quite strange. But it's just, it would have been better, potentially, that it was all that way, but it wasn't. So, but very
Mind you, that could have been. We would have been saying it's tropey otherwise, I suppose, if it would have gone that way. But
you're right.
But you do get, and I don't know who it's from, and I don't think it's ever revealed who it's from. When he's after the surfing incident, he gets a postcard from the Dolphin Hotel. When he's looking at his, I suppose, fan mail, and it's got "Don't enter 1408," and it's just got the address there with a picture of the hotel. But correct me if I'm wrong, you never get to know who that's been sent from, or we meant to think that's sent from his daughter or someone.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. That is a very good point. I have no idea who that's come from.
Again, another unanswered question.
Yeah,
why?
Very true. Because you'd think at some point it would turn around and say, wouldn't it? But
yeah,
it doesn't.
No, is it a cry for help? Is it a message from the other side, as it was? But no, it's just wasted. But one thing it does make me laugh, which is tropey, which I was really disappointed when I was younger. When he goes to do like investigations for room 1408, and he goes to the library, and in every film where there's like a certain kind of mystery involved, that they go to those newspaper slides and they kind of go through to find out old stories from like the 1940s and shit like that.
Yeah.
I went to my library to see if they had that because I wanted to find out old deaths and mysteries. And I was so disappointed. Yeah, when I was younger. I'm not talking about yesterday.
I was about to say, fucking hell. I know you love this podcast, but that's crazy.
But yeah, I remember going there looking for that same machine that had all newspaper clippings in from deaths and stuff. And I was so fucking disappointed that there wasn't any. And I'll never forget that. And I always chuckle to myself when I see them in films because it's just nonsense. Surely that not every library, well, not in this country anyway, every library has that.
Maybe they do in America. Maybe it's a thing in America, but it certainly isn't over here, isn't it? And see,
no, sadly.
Now
I'm such a nutty.
Very different with the internet. But
well, exactly. We don't need that now. I can find research and pornography on the internet whenever you want. So
some would say pornography is research. So
that's true. Depends what you're researching.
Yeah,
definitely.
exactly.
But he does find out several deaths have occurred within the Dolphin Hotel starting in 1938 that are put down to suicides of people hanging themselves, jumping out windows and stuff like that. So it's a kind of hook that he needs, and he gets his publisher to look at the laws to ensure that he stays at a hotel, which again is a padded out scene that isn't really needed. Whether he would have just stayed in the hotel and just said, look, I'm staying in here, whatever, regardless, rather than this scene with his publisher saying that there's what is it, like a bylaw or something, that if the room's available you can't be turned down from it. It's not needed, is it, this scene at all?
No, it can't. Well, no, yes and no. I kind of liked it in the sense that it sort of built it up a little bit, rather than this, because obviously it leads on to the scene with him and Samuel L. Jackson. It sort of gives a bit of a leeway to him turn around and say, well, I'll just sue you if you don't let me stay there. So
yeah,
yes and no, but I didn't mind it.
I liked it when he rung the hotel and he asked for the room.
How may I help you?
Yeah, I'd like to stay in room 1408, please.
That room is unavailable, sir.
I didn't tell you which date. How about Saturday?
It's unavailable.
Following Tuesday.
Unavailable.
Next month.
Unavailable.
Next summer.
And it's interesting when he gets to the hotel that it's red flagged already.
Yeah.
And you see certain members of staff, which is key as to why they show like a relay of messages through different members of staff, which I wonder what they were doing. And then Samuel Jackson appears. And even though he's briefly in it, I think what he does as the manager is really good, isn't it? He plays that part really well.
It's classic Samuel, I'd say. Reminded me of sort of his performance in Pulp Fiction and stuff like that. Very good at the sort of the chat and stuff like that, making it sound serious, and he's very good. Very good. This is his best type of performance, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I completely agree, mate. He plays it really well. He's very confident, very cool, very knowledgeable about the room.
Yes.
And he doesn't break character from the cool, calm, collective, and intelligent. They both have done their homework, and it's not known how long Samuel Jackson's worked there, but he's worked there long enough, whether it's handed down from manager to manager, to build some kind of portfolio, photographs documenting every single death at the hotel in room 1408, which seems really weird. I'd like to have known a bit more about that book.
Under my watch, there have been 4 deaths. 4. After the last one, I forbade any guests from checking into 1408 ever again.
The last one was David Hyde, orthodontist, manic depressive, slit his wrist, did a little self-surgery, turned himself into a eunuch, right?
Yes. So you've done your homework.
I'm a professional, too.
Well, grievously, in its 95-year existence, the hotel has seen 7 jumpers, 4 overdoses, 5 hangings, 3 mutilations,
2 stranglings. General Manager Gerald Olin is well-versed in the hotel's tragic history, dryly reciting the docket of carnage like a bookkeeper discussing his ledger.
Wow. You think you're clever, don't you?
I know the game.
Well, during your investigation, did you discover the 22 natural deaths that have occurred in 1408?
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because they're right. They say they can't. It's such a weird thing to do, isn't it? Rather than just condemn it, they just keep it pristine, and they turn it out every week. But yeah, you're right. They keep this whole journal of all these deaths, and it is an odd thing to do. It really is. That's where you sort of look at it and go, would they do that? Is this something you would do? But you're right, it probably has been passed down from each manager saying, sort of a scrapbook, but people ignore it to the point where it's like, oh, it's just one of those things that happen. And
it's interesting the deaths they put are natural causes, isn't it? That of kind of heart attacks and say people drowning and stuff like that, and 7 jumpers, 4 overdoses, 5 hangings, 3 mutilations. And it's interesting, and he's also aware of John Cusack's writing and his books, and he describes them as trashy, cheap books that you'd find which you'd take on holiday just to waste a few hours. That he's still trying to protect him, which is interesting because you'd think that he'd kind of say, fuck it, go for it, stay in that room and just knock yourself out. But he doesn't do that, which I think highlights just how dangerous the room is to Samuel Jackson.
Here, read the godforsaken thing. I guarantee you, once you've read it, you won't want to stay in 1408.
Oh, definitely. But the thing is, he says, doesn't he? He goes, I'm not here to. I'm not a mortician. I'm a hotel manager. I don't want to keep dealing with deaths because he's had so many while he was been manager, and that's why he sort of closed it off. He said, I don't let anyone stay in there anymore because I don't want to deal with this. Which is completely right. You would, wouldn't you? I mean, you would just condemn it. But clearly, for whatever reason, they decide, maybe you know more than me. I didn't quite understand it, but they don't condemn the room.
No, so I don't get that. And I did like the maid story as well, who got locked in there. I thought that was very good.
1408 gets a light turn once a month. I supervise the maids work in pairs. We treat the room as if it's a chamber filled with poison gas. We only stay 10 minutes, and I insist the door remain open. But still. A few years ago, a young maid from El Salvador found herself locked in the bathroom. She was only there for a few moments, but when we pulled her out,
She's dead.
no, blind. She'd taken a pair of scissors and gouged her eyes out. She was laughing hysterically.
No, I love kind of ghost stories like that, but it's never. You'd think, right, we've got that room, take the number off it, and that's it. No one goes in it. It's just a locked room. We can board over or plaster over that room. There's been so many deaths. I don't get why they don't do that. It doesn't make any sense. I know it wouldn't be a story, but
Yeah.
if you've had 56 deaths in total, you're going to plaster over it. If you're going in there to clean it with a maid's 2x2 with him watching with the door open, when no one's allowed to stay in it, A, as you say, why are you doing that? B, just fucking don't bother and just lock the room up.
Well, that's the thing. You would just turn around, even if the room is livable. Let's say you could just pretend it's condemned, just cut it all off, and just say no, that's not available because just pretend there's an issue with the room, so it wouldn't be livable. But they don't, and that's what they're saying is part of this legislation, wasn't it? That if the room's available, they have to give it to you, and all this sort of nonsense. But you're right, it wouldn't be a story if not. So they had to get round it, didn't they? But you'd think
it would be a really short film, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It goes there is no room. Okay, cheers, bye.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, sure, I can't stand it. No. Ceiling's falling through, mate. Sorry. No.
Yeah. We would slate the fucking film then.
Yeah. It's a very short story from Stephen King. Yeah.
But he gets to the room, and even his journey there is very spooky when he's walking down, reading the folder, and the lift opens, and it's just the way it's filmed and the way it looks, like cinematically, I like it. And you do get a sense of The Shining in the hotel room, the way it's filmed down this really long corridor.
Yeah.
And I don't think, obviously, with the Stephen King link, that is by accident at all.
Oh God no. It's very similar, isn't it? You do definitely get the Shining vibes in this film.
Yeah, definitely. And when he's in the room, he goes through and kind of does his commentary on how cheesy the room is, and I quite like that because he's basically slating the room as everything's a prop, and it is old, and that's the way they want it to be set, to give that impression that it's just an old shitty room with stains on the carpet. And but from now on, more or less, it is just John Cusack, which, to his credit, must be very hard trying to build that emotion up to go through what he goes through when he's not playing off any other character. So I think he does really well to what he does, or what he's given to do.
I think his performance in this film is very good. I think it's very credible, to be honest. I completely agree with what you're saying. He's got no one to act off against, does he, or react to? It's all about, right, he's read the script and we need you to do this, and he makes it very believable.
Yeah, he does indeed, and I do like that. And I like it when he thinks he's sussed the room out pretty quick, that it's a standard setup, just to gain more stars. Just as he says to everyone, he attributes that to most of his visits, that when he's looking out of the window, and he's very, very high up on the 14th floor, because there is no 13th floor, so technically he is the 13th floor, that he turns around and the radio comes on, and it's the Carpenters, like, we've only just begun. And that's creepy. That always freaks me out, things like that. And again, that had I don't know if you've seen Stephen King's Christine with the car.
Yes.
That very similar vibes to that one, where the car talks to him and he plays music, and he kind of, obviously the car falls in love with his owner and protects it. I always think it's really creepy when a radio comes on playing a fucking weird song.
I know. It's a classic though, isn't it? It's a classic horror thing.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and if done right, it's good. And he does freak out, and it's good because it provokes a reaction. He's got chocolates on the bed. The toilet roll, which he ripped off, is folded nicely. And credit to him, he does run through and thinks, well, the only one answer it can be is there's someone else in the room. Yeah. And he does think it's Samuel Jackson. So he's opening all the doors, the cupboards, everything, and there's no one there. And then it gets really hot. And I do like the scene, and you kind of wonder why someone goes to that effort. Because it's so hot in the room, they do call the engineer, and he speaks to reception, and reception obviously go through with it. And the guy who turns up, I don't know if you've seen The Wire, but there's a mayor in there called, a politician called Clay Davis
Yeah.
in The Wire, and he's famous for going, she. And that's him who turns up, and he's such a good character in The Wire.
Oh.
And I just expected him to say that. But it's strange because he's too scared to go in the room, and he gives commands from basically from the corridor. Why didn't he do that? He could have just done that from the phone. The thermostat stuck. Right, open the flap, tap the mercury switch, which sounds like a fucking bomb. And then that's it. And you're there. But it just seemed very strange, and it was just to obviously highlight how scared people are.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going in this room. See you later. I think the bit before that, though, was just so weird when he's going around with the blue light, with the UV light.
Oh God, would you ever do that?
I know, and the fact that there's stuff everywhere. It's like, they say they turn out this room every month, and there's fucking stains on everything. It's like, fucking hell, what do they wash it with? Nothing. Fresh air.
They wash it with blood and semen.
Yeah, it's just like, fucking hell. The bed's caked in it and everything. You're like, what? What's going on?
Like, this reminds me of Guardians. It's like a Jackson Pollock picture, the bed, isn't it? The duvet. It's
just so weird. The first thing that it sort of took me away a little bit, that did, because I was like, that, all right, maybe the carpets and and stuff like that might have some residue, but unlikely after all that time. But the bed's fucking caked in it. It's like, okay, good, right?
Yeah, I would never do that. Never ever do that. Oh, well, Jesus, it's disgusting.
Definitely.
Oh. And at the moment, because it starts to, obviously the clock starts ticking literally and figuratively, because the alarm goes again and it plays the Carpenters, and then it counts down from an hour, and that's when he can't get out. He's locked in the room and he's committed, because Samuel Jackson says that most people only last an hour in a room, which we work out why, because it's a countdown to death, basically.
Yes. I have an issue with this, though. In the sense that he says no one ever lasts more than an hour in that room, and the clock starts ticking down 60 minutes, but he's already been in there about 45.
Yeah, I thought that.
It's like, well, strictly speaking, it should be 15 minutes on the clock or something like that. But there you go.
That's what happens when you watch it for a podcast. You think, right, pick up on that bad boy.
I'll just get some Adenoids and start pushing my glasses up off my nose. Yeah.
I'm in the same camp, mate. When he looked out the window and the window shut on his hand, but then he goes in the bathroom and he picks up a lovely clean white, well, we don't know how clean it is now, picks up a white towel, gets blood everywhere, and then decides to wash his hands. If you were the maid, you'd be like, fuck off, you're cleaning that.
Yeah, it's a really strange mood, isn't it? It's like, okay. Yeah. Wrap it, then wash it. Yeah.
It's really weird. And for the next, I'd say, I mean, at this point, there's only an hour left in the room. And for the next, I'd say maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, it goes through a series of emotions. And I find it, when we spoke before, when we did, but she didn't like the Expendables podcast, and when we did John Wick as well, that we all felt, we all did with Expendables, and you did with John Wick 2, fatigued at what's happening. And whilst he's in the hotel room, you get, I enjoyed the different characters when he's looking out the window and he turns around and he sees that ghost with the hammer run at him, which is fucking freaky. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. And even it kind of felt Hitchcocky that when he's looking out the window trying to get help and it's himself copying. I
knew that
enjoyed
straight
that.
away though. Instantly, I knew that was him. It was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I kind of felt I got fatigued with the scares. I felt they were limited to what they could do in that room until he sees his daughter. And I got personally for me, I don't know if it's because I watched it kind of so many times, but I just found it hard work.
I can see why you're saying it, but I'll be honest, I didn't. I found it quite fun. It was interesting to see this really arrogant bloke go from someone in the room and all this sort of stuff, and then him transition to this absolutely petrified, can't get out of it, knows he's in so much shit. And I enjoyed all the scares and all the different bits. So, like you say, maybe because you watched it a load of times, I suspect if you watch it more than once or twice, it's going to be hard work. But I'd never seen this film before we did the podcast. Like, we agreed to do this, and I watched it, and I thoroughly sort of enjoyed this bit.
I get what you're saying, and it's not his performance, because I think, as I said before, I think John Cusack does really well charging that emotion, and it is various emotions, and I think it's a mixture of kind of you're there with him going through this journey, and also as the audience you're getting a certain amount of satisfaction that look how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah.
That you always say, and he even mentions it here, I clean my teeth next to the bath where so and so drowned so many children and I didn't give a shit, and he bigs himself up to actually crumble down to his knees, to be honestly scared to the bones. It's satisfying how sick that sounds.
Oh, completely. And I enjoyed the transition he went through, because he's freaking out, and then he's like, it's the drink. They've basically drugged me and all this sort of stuff. So he even starts blaming that. But then within 2 minutes, he's back drinking it again, which I thought was a bit weird. So you think you've been drugged, but then you drink it anyway.
Yeah. What did you think of the scene where his father appears in the bathroom, appearing in a wheelchair as if to be in like a mental hospital, and he has that short conversation with him where I can't remember what he says now. He says something, what you will be what I am, something like that, and that you're basically going to perish. And then he leaves the bathroom and his dad's gone. I didn't get that. There was no mention of his dad, only apart from the book, of the relationship he had when that girl mentioned it.
Yeah.
There's no payoff for me, and that's what really annoys me in this film. But why, I want to know why he's going through that emotion, or why the evil spirit has put that in front of him to play with his mind. Because for the audience, there was no payoff for that, because I had no expectations or sympathy for John Cusack, because I didn't know anything about that story.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree, mate. I completely agree. All it is, you're right in the sense that the ghosty or demon or whatever you want to call it is obviously picked up on this memory of him and his dad and the relationship, and is hurting him that way. But you're completely right in the sense there was no build up to it, other than the aforementioned question from the girl in the bookstore.
Because you want to enjoy the ride as well, the thrills and the scares, and they miss out. But I did like the one time he did decide to leave the room, when he looks at the map of the fire escapes and where you can go with all the rooms there, and he goes out on the ledge, which is possibly why so many people have jumped off the ledge.
Yeah.
And he crawls along thinking it was 18 feet till the next window, and when he goes, it's just a massive void of wall. And there is nothing. I thought that was a really good twist, and this film was like an episode of the Twilight Zone.
Yes,
really, really was very twisted.
It's very clever, isn't it? Because you're right. He's pacing along the room, saying, "Right, okay, that's how many steps it is. I can do this. It's a big ledge, and all this type of stuff." And he's creeping along, and then he all of a sudden looks, because he feels like he's not getting anywhere, and it's just wall for ages, and
Yeah.
he's like, shit, okay, this isn't going to work, and he has to then go back again, doesn't he? And then that woman, as he gets there, that ghost jumps out the window, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Oh no, it wasn't. Isn't this guy that scares him again at the window with a hammer? Isn't it?
Yeah. Then the woman jumps
Yeah.
out, and he ends up hanging on the ledge, which
Yeah.
is really, really good. And once he's in the room, we do get that payoff that kind of I always go on about wanting, of when you see his wife, you see Lily, and you see Katie in hospital, where she's obviously been diagnosed with cancer, and she has a more kind of a different approach to it, that a more softer, gentle approach, where he's suffering a lot more than she is, and it sounds like he wants treatment and she wants a more, I don't know, maybe she doesn't want her medicated, because they have an argument which they show of that you just went on about heaven and hell and that you'll be there one day, where we should have done something about it. But I just got the impression that possibly she didn't want her to receive any treatment. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess maybe she didn't want to put her daughter through chemo and everything else like that if they've already turned around and said unfortunately there's no help for her. She's like, she obviously didn't want to make her, what little time she had left, even worse, and he probably blames her for that, doesn't he? And that's where this has come from, because he wanted to try everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he does call her in the hotel on his laptop.
Yes.
And I quite like that she's introduced, and it's for the first time she's kind of live, and that we see her, and that's when you learn that they haven't spoken for ages, and he just appears from nowhere, and he's in a hotel room that just wanting help randomly, and she thinks that he's either pissed. So you get the impression that he's either got a drink problem, or he gained a drink problem when they were splitting up over the illness. And then is this the part when the evil kind of John Cusack comes on, or is that later on?
No, that's later on. Now the sprinklers come on and stop the conversation because he's trying to get her to phone the police and all this sort of stuff, and the sprinklers come on and short it out. And it's later on that, because after this the room goes really cold, doesn't it? And
that's right. He goes up through the fire escape and does a John McClane, doesn't he?
He does, and that creepy thing starts chasing him round, and he sees, because he tries to go to the next room, doesn't he? And he actually sees his, I think it's his wife there in the room with the baby.
Yeah, he sees Lily with a baby Katie. That's a fucked up scene, isn't it? Because that's really clever, and I like that, because when he's going in the hotel, you've got that woman who's long brown hair, quite attractive, with a baby, and she's dressed very old-fashioned, like in the 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
And with a stroller, and you don't see the baby. And when he goes into the room, he thinks it's the same lady. And it's the way it's filmed when he calls out for help, and she looks, and that look on her face is so creepy.
Oh no, it's freaky, isn't it? It's very good. There are a lot of elements in this film which are they are good. They do sort of give you a bit of a chill.
Yes.
One of the things I did find really funny though is when he's talking to Samuel Jackson in the fridge.
Yeah. I'm
was
so glad you mentioned that. I'm honestly so happy, because I was like, WTF is that about?
Exactly. He's in this tiny fridge talking to him about staying in the room, and then all of a sudden he's just kicking the shit out of it and sending drinks and everything everywhere, going mental.
I was just checking to see if the accommodations are exceeding your expectations.
You know goddamn well they are! What do you want from me?
No. What do you want?
What do you want, Mr. Enslin? You sought this room.
It was a job. I was doing the job.
I beg your pardon.
My job. I'm a writer.
Oh, that's right. You don't believe in anything. You like shattering people's hopes.
Oh, that's bullshit!
Why do you think people believe in ghosts? For fun? No. It's the prospect of something after death.
What do you want from me? You...
To me, that didn't make any sense. That didn't add anything
No,
to it at all.
it didn't. And do you know when he overacted on this part? I was sitting there thinking because I watched that Nicolas Cage film the other day,
That was a
and
mistake. Straight.
yeah, I know. Actually, I think did I see the end of that film? I don't think I did. I think I left before the film finished. Um, but in there, Nicolas Cage does take the piss out of himself and about the tropes of Nicolas Cage's acting, where he overacts everything. And this reminded me, I suddenly thought Nicolas Cage could do this film really well as well, because it's all about him in the room where you could overact. And that bit with the fridge, as she said, what the fuck was that about? That did not fit in with what was happening, did it? It's so funny.
Not at all. It was just so random. It's like, why is Samuel Jackson in the fridge? What's it's going? Why is there a miniature Samuel in the fridge? And then it's just I was just like, okay.
It's so weird.
I like surreal and a bit weird, but this has gone too far. But you're right.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
And then the room does get really, really cold for some unknown reason. And as you said correctly, which I'm not surprised about, that he does get the computer out, and then the evil John Cusack is speaking to his wife and says, "Oh, like I love you. Get here. I knew you'd help me. You're the only one I can rely on." And I kind of, there's no payoff for that at all, is there?
Yes and no. Definitely, I liked it because obviously he even winks it in, doesn't he? He winks back because he's trying to talk, and the demons possess the laptop and is talking to her on his behalf and saying, "No, come here. You know, I need to talk to you," and all this sort of stuff. And she's like, "Yeah, of course I will." And but later on, it talks to him again, or the phone. He gets a phone call, doesn't he, from reception saying, "Oh, your wife's here," and she's on her way up. So clearly, the room's sort of like, right, I'm going to kill her as well.
Do you think the room would have let her in and killed her?
Yeah. I think that was the whole point of it. That was just how I took it.
Yeah, I didn't know whether it was to shit him up or not, but you get the cracks in the room, and then all of a sudden, through the cracks, become water, and he's in the sea. And he's holding onto the coffee table for dear life, and it's so random. I have to be honest. Even when I watched it on the initial visit, it was losing me at this point. I was struggling to keep with it.
I have to agree with you again, because there's toying with someone, which this demon thing has done really well so far, and then all of a sudden, it's gone from, "Oh, I'm making you really hot," to really cold and scaring you and forcing you to do stuff that you wouldn't normally do, to breaking apart and trying to drown you. It was really weird. It completely went off left field and didn't make any sense.
No, and I think I can only see the reason why they did this was so it brought it one full circle back to the surfing scene where he does wake up. And he is on the beach, and it's the same repetition. The guy comes over and says, "Oh, you're okay, buddy," and stuff like that. And then he goes to the hospital, and he's joined by Lily. And at that point in the film, with only 25 minutes left, you are left wondering, was it all in his mind when he was out cold? And that's what I thought, because they do get on really well. And even when he goes to dinner, he kind of has that vision when they're chatting, and you can tell they're getting on brilliantly, and they're kind of, the chemistry is there. He thinks he sees that fat lady who jumped out the window. It turns out to be someone else. And he's kind of working on the laptop, and then he goes and he writes his book. So we don't know how long he's. I don't know if you know how long he feels that he's back in the normal world for.
I don't know, honestly. I don't know. It was really weird. It was a dream within a dream, if you see what I'm trying to do. It was quite clever, because it was almost like bringing him back to. It's toyed with him enough that it's almost sent him mad. Then it brings him back to reality to make him feel good again, and then sinks him back into the horror. So it was almost like the ultimate mind fuck.
Yeah, and I did like the way they did it. I have to say, when he goes back to the kind of the postage store, and the guy behind the counter is the one from the porter from the hotel, and then he turns around and people doing building work behind is the manager, and they're all staff in the hotel.
Yeah.
And then they start, strangely, I didn't expect it. I didn't know whether he was going to be attacked, but they smash the fuck out of the room and everything, don't they?
Yeah, it's really weird that I just start deconstructing this this building while he's just stood in it. It was quite weird, and then all of a sudden he wakes up back in the hotel room, doesn't he? The whole thing's quite clever, but done very strangely.
Yeah, it's very, very Stephen King, and I've never read this book, to be honest. I don't think I'd ever want to read it, to be honest.
No, probably not. I think a lot of his books are quite good, but I think they go on quite a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, this we feel that you felt that this is fairly padded with some of the stuff. If you read the book, I suspect you feel like you were being surrounded by pillows.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's strange because when he does wake up in the room, he's faced with a door, and it's like a massive void in there, and all of a sudden, Kate is there. She appears, like his daughter, and I'm kind of, because he's so skeptical, because of what he's been through, and he's been back and forth. Was it a dream? Is she there? That when she faces him, that I struggle to believe that he believes that she's the real one.
I love you, Daddy. Don't you love me anymore?
Of course I do, sweetheart. Oh my God. I'm not gonna let you go.
Do you love me, Daddy?
Of course I do. I love you more than anything in the world.
I wish we could stay together. You, me, and Mommy.
We can. I got you right here. No, you can't. You can't twice. You can't.
And I kind of, that took me out, but then I thought it was also just as ballsy to have her die straight away in his arms, which I thought was quite a brave decision.
No, massively. You half expect her to turn into some weird demon creature thing, wouldn't you, and start trying to attack him. But the fact that they, obviously this emotional rollercoaster of dad finally getting his daughter back, and then to have her die again, horrific for him.
Oh, God,
personally. So very, very clever and brave, like you say, because normally you wouldn't have that type of thing. You'd either have something like The Ring, where it goes all dead and horrible and starts to try and rip him apart. But it was a good touch, I think, because that's the point he just absolutely loses it.
Yeah, and I completely agree, and I thought that was great. If it wouldn't, it sounds really weird to say, if the kid wouldn't have died then, it would have ruined that scene. But I thought it was the last, and it's the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Yeah.
That breaks him, and he's had it then. That's it. I mean, the clock counts down, and it's virtually over. And I thought personally he was going to die because he's on his back on the floor in the room, and it goes into what is kind of like Groundhog Day, because it just wakes up and the room's tidy, and it's back again. The clock's back on a countdown from an hour.
Oh no!
That must be gut-wrenchingly awful. It's terrifying.
It is, but I think I said at this point, I said I'll just lay on the bed.
Yeah.
I'll just lay on the bed now. I'll just say fuck it. If I can't get out of this, I'm just going to lie down on the bed.
Yeah.
Maybe even rub one out. Show the room who's boss. So fuck you. Clean this up. It just. I know that's vulgar, but fuck it. It's just you're at the point now of no return, aren't you?
Yeah. You could do, completely, because you know what's going to happen to a certain extent, and the room isn't going to kill you. The room is going to want you to kill yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, basically, it's trying to turn you insane and do stuff to yourself. And clearly, he's not that type of person. He's not one that wants to take his own life or have that in him to hurt himself. So you're just going to be there tortured until you finally snap.
Yeah,
So,
and I do like the fact when he does fight back against the room, that every room he walks in, there's a noose where the room is offering him at his probably the most vulnerable point. All you need to do is just put your head through there and hang yourself.
yeah.
And you're right, he doesn't do it. He's a lot stronger character. He wants to go out his way. And I think it's quite impressive that he just gets that bottle, which has lasted fucking ages, that bottle of scotch or whiskey, whatever it is.
Oh, yeah. $800. That would have been gone straight away if it was me. Fuck that.
Yeah, exactly. And he does a Molotov cocktail and just chucks it against the wall and decides, just fuck it, I'm just kill myself and destroy the room with it.
Yeah.
And he gets rescued by the fucking Trumpton turn up, and they rescue him, which I didn't expect. And why, when the room was burning, it flashes away to Samuel Jackson.
Yeah.
And who's saying, well done, like Mr. Enslin, well done.
Yeah.
And I didn't get why he's saying that. What does he mean? Well done. I've got no idea. Is this because he's seen it so much and he survived the room? What does that mean?
Yeah, it was. I thought exactly the same thing. It was almost like you were saying, "Well played. You finally beaten the room. Everybody else has died." You know, but it sort of takes it back to the beginning, doesn't it? If you knew this room was killing people and you wanted it off limits, you'd do something to it so it couldn't be inhabitable.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I couldn't do it to my hotel or the room, but you've done it for me, sort of thing. So no one's ever going to have to stay in there again.
Yeah,
It's
really strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is bizarre. And again, it goes back to where he's in hospital and his wife's there and everything's really good with Lily again. And then he sits down to write the book and he says, like, the book has written itself. And he finds that dictaphone and he plays it and his daughter's voice is on there and his wife hears it and drops the box she's holding. And annoyingly, it ends. And I'm left thinking, okay, so they heard the daughter's voice. So what? What does that mean? Tell me what that means. I need to know. I need closure.
It means it happened, I guess, in the sense that all the things he said happened that no one would ever believe happened is true. And that's how I took it, in the sense of it wasn't just, you know, because let's be fair, like you said, you felt a presence where someone's pushed you and all the stuff that happens in your house and stuff. But most people that get told a ghost story just fob it off, don't they? It's your mind playing tricks on you and stuff like that. There's never ever any evidence, is there? You know?
No.
And even if there is, people turn around and say, oh, that's camera tricks or photoshopped or whatever. So it was just, to me, it was evidence that everything he went through was true. And
yeah.
But
did you think that was better? Did you think it was good that they had that? Or do you think it would have been good if there was, say, another voice on there or no voice on there at all? Or do you think this would help their closure?
I think it was good because obviously it was done in front of her mum as well, so it was a voice that she would recognise. If you see what I mean, because if it was just a random voice, she could have said, "Well, that could have been anyone, mate. That could have been. You could have had someone else in the room the whole time."
Yeah.
If you see what I mean. So, and it was sort of almost brought it back to her as well, and it could have opened up to another. I don't know if he wrote another book or had something in mind for a sequel about it, but you know. That's how I liked it. I liked that end. It was better than just going, he was rescued happily ever after type of thing.
Yeah, it was nice that the wife heard it, I agree, and she actually got closure, probably herself from her daughter. But yeah, and the film goes off there, and really that is the end of the film. It's quite a straightforward film. I mean, tell me, how would you rate this film? Is it a film you'd recommend or not? Would you ever watch it again?
I have to be honest. I keep away from horrors, and I have done for quite a while because I find them quite boring and predictable.
Yeah.
They're either ridiculously cheesy, sort of B-movie-esque, or grotesque. There's nothing seemingly in the middle which sort of makes you think about stuff. And I found that I really enjoyed this film. When Paul mentioned it, I instantly thought, "Oh God, what is this going to be?"
Mm. Is
And
that
I've not
because Paul
seen it.
mentioned it?
Yeah, it was because I mean, Caliber in itself just makes me nervous.
Oh God, I'd forgotten about that.
Oh
Clearly you
God,
haven't.
I could never forget that pile of wank. But so I watched it and I found myself just really enjoying it. Other than a couple of bits that have sort of took me out of it, especially Samuel in a fridge.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really, really good film, and I'd recommend anyone to give it a go because it is a psychological thing. I ended up putting myself in his shoes
Mm.
almost and thinking, what would I do? How would I react to that? If all those nooses were around, would I have just done it? Or
Yeah.
would I have thrown myself out the window? Or whatever, it's you sort of, you look at it and I thought it was really well done. There was a couple of weird bits in it, but no, I'd massively recommend it. I'd happily give this a 4 out of 5.
Wow.
Yeah, because you don't get many good horrors, and I know this is 2007, so we're going back a fair old time, 15 years, but it still holds up, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So, yeah, by all means, go out, give it a watch on Netflix while it's there, and sort of enjoy something that isn't tropey.
Yeah,
in my
no,
opinion.
definitely. I honestly, I do agree with you. I think when you supernatural films that are out there, that it is very hard to do something that's original. I mean, you look at the Insidious films that they've made. God, Christ knows how many they've made of those. You've got
Yeah.
Sinister, Paranormal Activity. I mean,
Yeah.
brilliant things like Poltergeist and stuff like that, which are just so good. And this film, 2007, I thought it was very good. And the first watching, I think for me personally, it's a film you can only watch once. And on another viewing, it's hard because you know what's going to happen. There is no surprise. And it's hard to, it's harder to put yourself in John Cusack's shoes as to what you do. Because I think everything happens so randomly and spontaneously, such as it's cold, it's icy, it's on fire. And there's other people in the room, he's on a ledge. And then his daughter arrives. And you think, Jesus, what would I do in his position? Would I stay strong? And as you say, mate, would I just crumble? And considering it's only him in the room, I thought he did really well. And I thought his energy is constant. And I think he's that kind of character. And the way he acts, when he's, and even things like Point Blank and High Fidelity and things like that, he's got that energy about him and he carries that into this film. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good and really creepy. And I got a lot from it and I was really entertained. Same bits as you, mate, that I thought, why are they doing this? And they made me laugh and randomly took me out of it, such as Samuel Jackson in a fridge. But on the whole, I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a good film, and I'd recommend it to someone, and just say, just go with it and enjoy the ride, because it is a good film, and I haven't seen any other films like this. There is the one similar to this. I can't remember where they're in the lift, and there's like the devil in the lift, and it takes random people. That kind of reminded me of this. That it's just the same characters all the time, which again is very entertaining. But yeah, I'd recommend it. I'd give this probably on initial viewing, I'd give this a 4 out of 5 because I thought it was good, and you just can't knock it. And there aren't many good things, especially on Netflix, that will keep you entertained at the moment. I mean, it has gone downhill somewhat.
That's harsh. You and Paul really have a Netflix thing at the moment, don't you?
I'm just struggling. I'm watching a few good things at the moment, but most of them are foreign that they're dubbed, and It's it's a bit hard. Do you know what? When I was editing the John Wick 2 podcast that is now available on all good podcasting platforms and on our YouTube channel as well. That
Yes.
I would. It was so funny that me and you had such a difference of opinion going through that podcast
Oh yeah.
about the blood there, and I was laughing to myself as to just how different our opinions were, and just and how well we both stuck to our guns and were polite to each other. And when you look thinly between the lines, but fuck you, Stuart, what are you on about? And it made me laugh so much because you spoke to me like I was a naughty boy. And I appreciate what you're saying, Stuart, but you're just clearly wrong on this part. It was brilliant, and I laughed so much. It was such a good podcast to do, that John Wick 2. It was great fun.
It was good. I'm glad we got that out of the way. I have to be honest, not out of the way, but because James has always referred to it as being horrendously bad,
Yeah.
I needed to get it done. I needed to know why, and it was thoroughly enjoyable. And going back to that blood debt thing, I completely understand where you're going from, but I still don't agree. So
Do you know what? When I listened to it, I said exactly the same thing. I said, I understand where you're coming from, Neil, but I am fucking right on this point. And it's brilliant. That's why the podcast is just so good, because getting difference of opinions like that, it just makes it so interesting, and it's just so much fun. But next week, hopefully, it's going to be a big week next week in a lot of ways. I'm going to be on the pod having watched Top Gun, and I could be eating fucking a massive slice of humble pie, a broken man, or I could just be there, cloud nine. Fuck you. I know what you're saying, Neil. I'm right. It's an amazing film. It'll be really interesting to see. And I'll give you an honest opinion without any spoilers of what I thought. And we'll be doing Batman 1989, I think it is, with Michael Keaton, won't we? Hopefully.
Yeah. Often recognised as the best Batman.
Fucking never.
Honestly,
Never.
But anyway, we will have our discussion about that.
Oh,
next
that is
week.
going to be a podcast that is same as John Wick. Honestly, it's going to be
So we'll all
interesting.
agree it's John Wick 1 and 3, yeah?
Oh, it's going to be very, very fucking
I
interesting.
know. I know your opinion on the original rebirth of Batman, and I completely I can see where this is going to go. I know. I've known you for far too fucking long that you will utilise your skills to try and wind me the fuck up.
It's going to be like a vindaloo, isn't it? It's going to be fiery.
It is, but I'm looking forward to it because me and James are very passionate about Batman. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see. But it's just going back to Netflix.
Yes, mate.
I'm enjoying Netflix at the moment. I've just finished the 3rd season of Love, Death and Robots, which is like a mini series of animated things. That's really worth watching.
That's on my list when you mentioned that. For me to watch it. I've got that down. At the moment, I'm watching a Mexican thing, which is called Quien Mato Asara, and it's about a girl who is murdered, and it's basically a whodunit, and her brother got pinned for it, and he's out for revenge. And it's really, really good film. It's Mexican, dubbed very, very well. There's 3 seasons, and when I read the synopsis, it was at the time when it was released the most watched series in Mexican history. So I've just started watching that. But yeah, I've got that series that you mentioned on my list of things to watch, Love, Death and Robots. So it looks pretty interesting. I saw a trailer of it on YouTube. So
yeah, I think the trailer that's out at the moment is 3 robots and stuff exploring.
Yeah.
But it's ranges all sorts of weird and wonderful things. And I remember watching it sort of a year or so ago, sort of the first 2 series, and I was sort of, some of it's, you can't get it right every time, but most of it, I was just sat there going, that's pretty cool. to be honest. I think
Yeah.
the good thing with Netflix is that if you like anime, that's got you down completely. There's so much on there. They've got some good comedies and some quality old action films and stuff. And I've just seen that Riddick and Pitch Black's on there. I love those films. You know.
See, I've never seen them at all.
You've never seen Riddick or Pitch Black?
No.
Wow.
No,
Wow.
I'm not a massive fan of Vin Diesel, to be honest.
Mate, I'll be honest, most people could play his character. It's only the fact that looks badass in it.
Well, do you know what? Let's put it on the Kangaroo Court podcast review list.
Kangaroo pot, I like that, okay. Cool.
And yeah, I always love watching things I've never seen before. I mean, The Departed, the game with Michael Douglas is brilliant. That is very, very good.
I think there's loads on there.
Yeah. So no, it's not bad. It's just sometimes when I really want to watch something that I sometimes struggle, but they go in fits and starts of different things. I mean, if you're a Ricky Gervais fan, Supernatural is very, very fun.
Oh, mate. I never used to like Ricky Gervais, and then I started watching that series of his, and then his comedy shows. My God, I was absolutely wetting myself with some of the stuff he comes out with.
It's brilliant. It's very clever humour in it.
He is, and he just doesn't give a shit about who he offends because he says, being offended is a point of view. Fuck you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's just, I wish I could go through life being like him, to be honest. But I'm not rich and famous, so I'd probably get slapped.
I was going to say, if you're a rich mate, win that Euro Millions and you can. Excellent. Well, that is it for this podcast. Again, it's been really, really entertaining, and I can't wait to do it next week. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks everyone for your tweets and for your emails and stuff like that. It's been absolutely brilliant. And we'll be back next week with what will be a very controversial Batman. Thanks ever so much for listening. See you soon.
We've got spooks and ghouls and freaks and fools at Rent a Ghost. Hear the phantom of the opera sing a haunting melody. Remember, what you see is not a mystery, but Rent a Ghost. At your party, be a smarty and hire Rent a Ghost. If you want a fright like the spooky heights with Rent a Ghost.